A lot of the current narrative focuses on thinking of AI as substitution for human labor, thinking about AI in terms of automation. But co-intelligence goes far beyond automation, and TDI is really an abstraction, but it's actually real because you can think of it as like a capsule of interrelated these tokens which actually capture your intent. Now L'Oreal is taking it one step further, and it's taking these into its product space, and it's capturing the way the consumer interacts with its products through these interfaces. What we're actually saying is that the AI system now is actually constantly learning, and it's reflexive. What we really need to do is to think about the AI's impact at all these levels, and also at the enterprise level and also at the country level.
皆さんこんにちは、山口です。今日はミシガン大学のベンカトラマスワミ先生をお招きして AI と人間が共同して価値を創造する社会高インテリジェンスソサエティ、本は高インテリジェンスリボリューションでございますがについて意見交換したいと思います。ラマスワミ教授は2004年に出版された書籍の The Future of Competition Co-Creating Unique Value with Customers においてその従来の企業が価値を創造し顧客に提供するという一方向的なモデルから脱却してですね、顧客やステークホルダーと企業が共に価値を創造する双方的なモデルへの転換を提唱しています。この2004年にこのようなアイデアを述べられているというのは大変先進的だという具合に思います。今回の高インテリジェンスリボリューションの考えは原型となると思いますので、まずこのCo-Creating of Value という考え方について少しご説明させていただきます。その理論は3つのポイントがあるかと思ってまして、1番目のポイントは顧客中心から体験中心へということで、顧客はもはや製品やサービスの受け手ではなくてですね、企業との対話や体験を通じて価値を競争する能動的な参加者と位置づけるべき、または価値は製品そのものではなくてですね、顧客が企業との関係性の中でいる体験の相対によって生まれるという具合におっしゃっております。また2番目のポイントはエンゲージメントプラットフォームという考えで、企業は顧客やステークホルダーとの対話の場、プラットフォームを設計し、そこに人、プロセス、技術を組み合わせて競争を促進する必要があると言います。そのプラットフォームは製品開発とかサービス提供、サプライチェーンなどあらゆる企業にまたがって設計される必要があるという具合におっしゃっております。3番目のポイントはエコシステムの価値創造ということで、今日もお話ありますけれども、企業単体ではなく顧客、従業員、パートナー、社会全体を含む価値競争エコシステムの中で価値は創造されると言っております。このエコシステムは個人の体験を中心に設計され、社会的、経済的、文化的インパクトを生み出すということを2004年当時からこういう話をされております。このコークリエーションバリューの考え方を発展させて、この共同での価値創造に AI がどのような役割を果たすかという独自のアイデアを体系的に整理されたのがこの2025年に出版された高インテリジェンスリボリューションでございます。AI が人間を支援するという一方的な関係にとどまるではなく、 AI 人間デジタル化されたインフラストラクチャーが連続的な流れの中で関与し合い、新たな価値と体験を創出するということを言っております。まさに一方的なエコシステムではなくてインタラクティブなエコシステムの必要性を言っておられます。まさに AI がですね、その性的なレコメンデーションをするエンジンや自律的なプランナーではなくてですね、リアルタイムで人間と共に進化する共同体験者として位置づけられていると述べています。またこのデジタルというのが自然、ネイチャーですね。で、社会、ソサエティ、経済、エコノミー、技術、テクノロジー、このネストと先生はおっしゃってますけれども、ネストの4領域を統合し、その上で AI と人間が共同して新たな知を作り出すと いうことをおっしゃっております。で、この高インテリジェンスの中からですね、じゃあ今後の組織はどうあるべきかというのは少し分かりやすく書いてありますのでご説明させていただきたいと思います。まずその組織というのはですね、価値を提供する主体から価値を共創する、共に作る場へ変化するといって、組織というのはですね、業務効率化ではなく創造的体験の流れを中心に設計し、 AI はその体験を拡張補完する役割を担うという具合に言っております。また先ほどのエコシステムじゃないですけれども、組織は単独で価値を作り出すのでなく、関与の場を設計し、その関与の場のエコシステム連携を AI が接続と知能の流通を担うというお話をされています。したがって組織構造もですね、現在のような静的な階層構造の組織からプラットフォーム上で動的に関係を構築していくネットワーク型に変わっていくということをおっしゃっております。今回の対談では AI が発展した経済、社会はどのような姿になるかという先生のお考えをお伺いするとともに、これを実現していくためにはどのような課題があるのかということを私たちが考える AI 経済ビジネスの姿と対比しながらですね、お話をお伺いしております。将来の AI 社会について考えてみたい方に示唆を得られる内容になっていると思いますので、ご視聴よろしくお願いいたします。I will be speaking with Professor Ramaswamy about co-intelligence revolution. It provides a powerful lens to reimagine how we create value, not just with technology, but through deeper human-AI collaboration. The concept of co-intelligence revolution is incredibly insightful and timely. As someone working in business, I find this vision inspiring, but I also wonder about the practical challenges we might face in turning it into reality. What will be the key hurdles we must overcome to build co-intelligence organizations and societies? I'm very pleased to welcome our distinguished guest, Professor Benkant Ramaswamy. Benkant is a globally recognized thought leader and the pioneer of the co-creation of value concept. It is truly remarkable that the concept of co-creation of value, where companies collaborate interactively with customers and stakeholders to create value, was already proposed back in 2004. Could you please begin by briefly introducing yourself to our audience here in Japan?
So first, Yamaguchi-san, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to have a dialogue with you on co-intelligence, which is my recent book, The Co-Intelligence Revolution, that you can see there. This book actually continues from 2 decades ago, like you mentioned, when I wrote the book, The Future of Competition, with the late C.K.Prahalad. That book actually had 2 big ideas. The first idea, actually, the principal idea, was the idea of human experience as the basis of value and its creation. For us, back then, with the advent of the internet, it seemed to us that we were on the cusp of a new revolution where value will have to be co-created, but through human experiences. So the first idea was actually that if we want to move from goods and services, product solutions, to actually co-creating human experiences, then by definition, experience must be co-created. If I have to create an experience for you, Yamaguchi-san, I must involve you, because experience is your experience. It's not my experience, it's not anybody else's experience. It is subjective, it is your experience, and how you find meaning in your world. So that is very, very important. We actually had a whole chapter on experience innovation, which was actually a key concept, and experience personalization, and also experience networks. These were three separate chapters in the book. But that was one set of big ideas. And then we actually said, if I have to create this experience for Yamaguchi-san, like I said, I have to involve you. Because if you think about creating a product, that need not involve the human being, right? Of course, today we get user feedback and all of that. So therefore we said, if we truly want to co-create the experience, then you must collaborate in a much larger network of partners and an ecosystem, because to create a personalized experience for you, I cannot do it alone as a company. I have to collaborate. I have to work within an ecosystem and build whatever capabilities I need. Today, we talk about platforms as the ways to do that, right? To actually create that experience which is highly personalized for you, which only you have meaning for. However, this second idea, which is related to the first, is what got a lot of traction for the last 2 decades. So what people saw was, hey, I must work in a network with partners, with other collaborators, including customers, right? That bring you also into the picture in some form. And so I think what happened was people focused a lot on the collaboration side of it, and therefore co-creating with partners, and of course technology companies co-created with lots of other companies in actually building the solutions and products together, which created experiences. So I just wanted to basically introduce co-intelligence by saying that was kind of where we started, and you see a lot of the different books in the process where I continue to give shape to that idea, because at the heart of it was interaction. And as we had more and more tools and technologies for interacting, more and more the world began to see the importance of experiences. So we talk about user experience, and we said customer experience, various digital experiences. And today, I think experience has become very central. And now we are talking about how humans and AI can co-create new value through these experiences. And that's the idea of co-intelligence.
Let's begin with co-intelligence revolution. Instead of seeing AI as something that replaces humans, your book invites us to imagine a world where humans and AI co-evolve together across business, society, and infrastructure. Could you please begin by sharing a brief summary of your book and its key messages?
Sure.
Please.
So actually continuing, the key word that you mentioned is that it's about how humans and AI are going to evolve together, co-evolution, which is very critical. And in order to do that, what we need to first think about is, what is AI? As you said, a lot of the current narrative focuses on thinking of AI as substitution for human labor, thinking about AI in terms of automation. But co-intelligence goes far beyond automation, and that's what we'll explore in this dialogue. And first, why that's happening. So starting with the why, so the first bullet point says that we are focused on automation and internal efficiency. So what the book is basically arguing, and it's not a conceptual argument, because that is actually what is happening today. Because for the first time, we have the ability to actually produce what are called today tokens in this concept of an AI factory, which I'll come to. Now, that is a very important concept, because for a long time, if you look at AI systems, we built models and we basically had data and compute. And for the first time, what is happening is, especially using transformers, which is a general purpose technology, if you will, we are actually able to use our interaction with AI as the basis for how we can create those experiences I talked about. So Yamaguchi-san, when you go and let's say you use ChatGPT, right? You're typing something in there, you are actually interacting with the AI system. So that interaction is there, and you're creating your own meaning because you are prompting the way you want to prompt it, and you're actually trying to bring more meaning into whatever you're querying about. So for the first time, we actually have a general purpose technology, going back to my introduction, where we can actually co-create new life experiences for all of us. And that is what is unlocking all the new form of value. And the core word I want to use in this whole dialogue is that we are actually creating meaning in motion. I'm using the word motion because in a moment I'll talk about why we live in a world of flow of these tokens now. And that is what is flowing through our system in the world today. And it's the infrastructure that's creating these flows, this AI infrastructure, that is opening up this whole new world of value that we have not tapped into, which was always there because humans have always tried to find meaning in their lives. And now, for the first time, we're actually having a way by which we are actually interacting and creating the meaning together with the AI. And therefore, we must, it's not a strategy. What I'm actually saying is this is the way in which it is happening today because of the technology, which is actually facilitating these new ways by which we are actually interacting and actually playing out the meanings which can be captured by these tokens, as we will discuss with examples. And therefore, for the first time, enterprises have the ability to unlock new forms of value by bringing that meaning on OpenAI ChatGPT. And so that when you go and interact with OpenAI ChatGPT, you get a highly personalized experience, but it's not me delivering an experience. You are actually co-creating the experience for yourself. And OpenAI is providing the AI infrastructure and the platforms, and through tokens, it is learning about what brings value to you and is using that learning, that's the other important word, to create that meaningful experience for you. So that's really what this co-intelligence revolution is all about.
From a business leader's perspective, what caught my attention is how your framework connects data, AI, and human intent into what you call tokenized digital intelligence, or TDIs. These TDIs seem to function like digital building blocks that power new kinds of personalized real-time services. It is very different from traditional workflows or static systems. Can you walk us through what these TDIs are and drive the business value?
Yes, so TDI is the most important concept actually in the book, although I'm actually writing a sequel to this book already, where the whole book is about TDIs because it is happening very, very fast today in the world. So let me very quickly give you an example. So when you interact with ChatGPT, and very recently OpenAI just launched the Atlas browser, right? So it's like you just have this now. You type in. It's actually their UI is the new AI. It's like a new AI operating system, right? You're just going in there. It's a browser. You can ask a query, right? And you can actually even build applications now through that little bar. Like Google was the search bar in 2000. Now you have the new bar of ChatGPT. I think it's a wonderful illustration of like this. This is the new interface. But what is happening behind the scenes when we interact with the AI is that the AI factory is running. And the AI factory basically is taking the words we input in there and it's tokenizing it. So there are input tokens. And then it's running all the AI models. And it is outputting tokens. So there are tokens are both input and output. Now what is happening is that when we kind of perceive these outputs, like in the case of text, the words flow across the screen and hopefully it's meaningful to you, right? As you interact with it. So that process is super crucial because the tokens are now essentially being converted to what in this language would be TDIs, even inside ChatGPT, right? So then when I, share an attachment, I say, summarize this for me, right? It's actually then reading the document. There's a summary TDI. It can capture context. And then, for example, it gives citations. That's like the citation TDI at work, etc. So TDI is really an abstraction, but it's actually real because you can think of it as like a capsule of interrelated these tokens, which actually capture your intent, and you can then give it feedback, right? Hey, was this output good or not? In the case of OpenAI. Now let's take a consumer example. So if you move from this world of LLMs and ChatGPT, where TDIs I just explained, to now, let's say a consumer beauty experience. So underlying L'Oreal's beauty interface are the same AI models. But now when I talk to it, the words I'm going to ask it are in terms of, let's say, beauty. I'm interested in a skin product. And so what it will ask you to do in the L'Oreal app is to essentially take a selfie. So now it's combined with augmented reality technology, for instance, and then there are various related technologies there, by which is capturing my face, and then it asks me questions, and then it can provide recommendations. And then if you look at the L'Oreal Perso product, it actually downloads that information to a machine, which creates a very personalized, let's say, lipstick for me. So if you take this simple example, this sits on top of the flows of tokens, and that's where the real value is being created. So L'Oreal is putting another layer on top, where essentially it's the interaction I have around the beauty product. So OpenAI takes NVIDIA's AI infrastructure. So AI infrastructure is the base. It's creating what I call the shared digital infrastructure, which is for example, OpenAI Atlas. Now L'Oreal is taking it one step further, and it's taking these into its product space, and it's capturing the way the consumer interacts with its products through these interfaces. So TDI is very powerful because for the first time in human and business history, we can actually get real interaction data directly from when the person is interacting, and the person is actually giving us a lot of knowledge and insights into. You can think of TDI as not just tokenized digital intelligence, but dynamic intelligence. And so that's essentially the example from the consumer space. And very quickly, in the Siemens case, it's a business industrial example. The same idea in now a physical factory where you have, let's say, robots. Typically, robots were doing only one specific task, as you know. And now, because of the programming logic controllers which run the robots now exposed through these AI factories, you can actually kind of talk to the robot in just your own language, right? And what it's doing is, just like in the L'Oreal example, the machine operator or a plant engineer can actually interact with the plant floor, and all of a sudden that comes alive, and there the TDI is capturing all of the interactions they have, for example, through a co-pilot that they have. And Siemens also has the same technology in terms of designing new products. So depending on the context, you're going to have a different type of TDI, and those TDIs actually capture the ongoing interactions, and that automatically is actually going into the models and changing the way the next interaction happens. So in the case of L'Oreal, this is very important. It's taking all of that, and then the next day it will say, "Oh, Yamaguchi-san, you used this product yesterday. How was it? Was it good? Did it work for you? Why? Why not?" So it's beyond just thumbs up. You can just talk and say, "Yeah, this was good, but my skin felt very oily. Maybe it was very humid outside, or interaction between the environment and your skin." So it can actually learn from your interaction and take all of those parameters and reconstitute the product for you. In the case of Siemens, it will readjust the factory flow. So this dynamic relations is hugely important. And that is really at the heart of this new TDI-based value creation with co-intelligence.
One of the most thought-provoking parts of your framework is the idea that performance no longer lives in static metrics, but in flows of value co-creation across platforms and ecosystems. You have proposed the peaks lens as a way to design this flow and deliver what you call sustainable well-being impact. Could you help us understand how the peaks lens works and why shared digital infrastructure is now becoming so critical for long-term value?
Yes, so that's a very good question. So we propose this, we call it PIX lens. It expands the pie of value, but the P really is about platforms. You can think of it that way, right? Which is built on this AI infrastructure I was just talking to you about. Think again, AI factories. And actually, in the case of Siemens, on top of AI factories are actually digital twins. And then they have all the interaction layer, like I discussed, right? And the TDIs are actually capturing your interaction with the digital twin or with the real factory floor, or sometimes a combination of the two. So that's the infrastructure setup. And that's creating the TDIs, which create value, and it's getting that feedback, which we discussed so far. What the PyX lens basically says is, okay, so that's think of it as the P, and then the I is all the interactions we talked about, the interactive engagement, like when you use ChatGPT. Now, what we are actually saying here, and the reason why this lens is very important, is that those interactions, these are actually flows of engagements. And so what we urge leaders to do is to think about, okay, how are you going to take these TDIs and drive it in your ecosystem first, right? Like, how does it go into the ecosystem, the E, and how does the ecosystem work such that it closes the loop back to you and creates that personalized recommendation or product for you, like the example I mentioned, right? And the X essentially stands for your experiences. Now, what we are essentially saying is two things here. One is when it goes into the ecosystem and comes back to you, today we have taken the AI to another level. So far we have talked about what people usually refer to as generative AI, right? Which actually allows you to have the interactive conversational AI. But now when you combine this with agentic AI now reconstitutes the workflows in the entire value chain and in the ecosystem, right? So for L'Oreal to create that now product experience, it has to go all the way into its operations and supply chain, depending upon what that interaction is, right? And then it has to be able to reconstitute and recompose my experience. So that's really where the company's capabilities come and the strategy comes in terms of the ecosystem. So that's one part. But then what we're saying is that as you do this and as you're learning together with the individuals, you're driving performance in a very different way, because now performance becomes, first of all, you're bringing efficiency, speed. You're going to be able to you're scaling all these interactions, so you do it at scale. And you're also increasing the scope of the value. So speed, scale, and scope, these three things. But then what we found in our research is that in every example, it was also enhancing sustainability. In the case of L'Oreal, the people, for example, would say, they want to be good to the planet, right? They want lipsticks that are made of certain kinds of materials, right? Or they want vegan options. So they were actually very surprised by all the kind of things that create meaning for consumers. Now, it varies across the base, but there are a lot of people who actually value that. And so the performance metrics also captures that North Star, as they call it, of making things sustainable. Same thing, we give examples of Siemens, where they work with Heineken and Northvolt, etc., where it drives not just the efficiency of their operations, but it also makes things more sustainable. And this is also very important because energy comes up as an issue in terms of energy efficiency of these platforms. And so that, I think, is going to become even more crucial moving forward. So the North Star is really driving these impacts, what I call sustainable well-being impacts at speed, at scale and scope, and that's really the North Star of co-intelligence. So the PyX lens is like a design lens, right? It helps leaders connect the interactions, which are actually facilitated by the infrastructure, with the ecosystem, and help drive different kinds of impacts together with the ecosystem. So that's really the purpose of the PyX lens.
So we move from static architectures to dynamic flows. The idea of co-intelligent micro-interactions feels especially powerful. I understand your book presents the PyX lens as a way to reframe how value is enacted across ecosystems. Could you help us understand what these co-intelligent flows look like in practice, and how does the PyX framework support companies in creating meaningful, sustainable impact across these moments?
Yes. So now I'm going to talk a lot about learning. So for a long time, we have talked about firms creating knowledge, right? We talked about knowledge creating company, right? The concept of ba in Japanese, etc. These knowledge environments and so on. But I think now what was happening is that because of these environments, um, you have the ability for these systems, like you mentioned, to bring the dynamism of how people actually want to interact with products and services, right? Like we discussed. So what we're actually saying is that the AI system now is actually constantly learning and it's reflexive. So it's reflexive learning because the feedback is going into the design of the AI systems, which is in turn helping our future experiences. So in the book, we talk about two things. AI in the flow of humans, AI systems, the flow of humans, and humans in the flow of AI systems. So they work together. So AI systems in the flow of humans is what we've been talking about. But now it will drive the design and development of AI systems where humans are actually have to orchestrate and govern the TDI flows. And that's where the strategy comes in. And it has to be based on this continual learning process. And so it's like learning and governance, they go together. And so thinking about how these flows are actually governed, because Yamaguchi-san, in your work, you talk a lot about trust. Trust is very crucial. And this is really a way by which trust can happen more naturally because as people through their future interactions, as the loyal consumer gets something and they find more meaning and they keep coming back to you, they essentially learn to trust the system because it's giving very trustworthy recommendation and it works for them. So that's where the gap is. And I think AI systems, if they are purposefully designed, where they actually capture the human intent and they actually, through the reflexive learning, it feeds into the AI systems, feeds into the humans. So actually, we are part of the AI systems out there. So the book basically says humans plus AI plus the ecosystem. You have to see it as a whole. And so we talk about five loci of this value creation. So if you take the pi excellence, it of course the platform is all about the capability like we discussed, but really the crux of it is in the I, right? The interactive engagements. That's where the value is enacted. So it's not about I built a product, I'm going to deliver to you. No, we are saying that is there, but we actually the starting point is the interaction with the customer, which is driving this whole process. So the enactment is very important. That's where the value is enacted. And then it is the activity is not just in your value chain, it's all in these flows. And that's where the meaning is in motion. It's in flow, right? It's creating meaning. And that's actually happening as a system. So it's not the companies are on one side, the customers on the other. It's all part of the same ecosystem. And we are actually having a more dynamic system where the AI is actually infused in every flow. And so strategy, it becomes this interconnected ecosystem network strategy, and performance becomes the sustainable well-being impacts. So it's really a whole new world where we are expanding how we think about value, how we create offerings, and also the very offerings that we create.
From your perspectives, how should the companies start thinking about innovation across these layers? Not just within their own product or platform, but in the way they design for experiences?
Correct. So if you think about the experiences, Yamaguchi-san, you can correlate it with nature, right? Because if you go back to the North Star, that's nature. If we think about all the interactions that correlates with society, today, we have a lot of discourse dialogue in society. So all these engagements where the TDIs are being kind of minted, if you will, in the AI factories, of course, is the infrastructure. That's the technology part. But it's really the connection between technology, society, and nature. And then as you are taking it to the ecosystem and driving these exchanges, we are now talking about the economy. So in the book, we relate the pi excellence to nature, that's the impacts, society, all the interactive engagements, which creates that experiences in our real world. Then we talk about the economy, which is today happening with all of this agentic AI, which is driving new forms of interactions and exchanges. And then technology, which is the AI infrastructure and the platforms based on which you are able to actually enact this value. So what we're really saying is have a much more larger space of value creation, which we call the life Xverse. So life Xverse is where the physical and the digital and the also virtual experiences and they're all intelligent experiences. They're actually converging, right? So now I'm going to say something more important, which is now what is happening. Therefore, as you go into this way of creating value, we are bringing AI into the physical world, and so in this view, co-intelligence, every interaction is going to have, by definition, generative AI, is going to have agentic AI and physical AI. Because ultimately, if you go back to Siemens, it operates in the physical world. Yes, there's a digital twin, but the physical AI is a manifestation. So when I'm interacting, sometimes it's virtual with the digital twin, sometimes with the actual machine, that's physical, and I'm conversing. That's generative AI. So it's generative AI and the AI taking actions, and it can happen in the physical world and the digital world. So it really is a new world of connected value creation, but not in the old connected way. We are saying this is a whole much more dynamic, relational approach to creating value, where it's about how we as people relate to the systems, right? And in the larger ecosystem I mentioned of nature, society, economy, technology, I call it nest ecosystem, but also in terms of the offering ecosystem, the value chain ecosystem, the management ecosystem. And so depending on where you're applying the PyX lens and looking at a certain set of tokens in terms of these flows of TDIs, that is the space in which you're co-creating value with this co-intelligence. So it really applies all across the value chain, end to end, and in the various ecosystems between companies, government, society, civil society, all of that. It just depends on the context in which you're applying this co-intelligent creation of value. So to summarize everything I've been saying, it's actually very simple. It's very, very simple, actually. It says if we really start with the human experience, for the first time in human history, we can actually co-create experiences. This was the original idea 25 years ago when you wrote the book Future of Competition, or at least we were imagining that way. Was the technology there? No. Were all the tools there? No. But today we actually have systems, and so AI is more than just a tool, right? It's really has become a fabric in which we are actually participating. And if the systems are designed to be reflexive, where it's learning from all our interactions, and these data are captured with TDIs in terms of context, provenance, right? And in terms of what permissions I give it, for instance, all of that then can help create a very unique value for every person on the planet, and collectively drive a lot more meaningful impacts, which is very much needed today in society. And you speak a lot about wisdom, so I think we now have the infrastructure for co-creating wisdom. Yeah, this slide just shows that in my book, I have over 100 examples. It's just a subset to make the point that it's universal. It cuts across every industry, every kind of ecosystem imaginable. So we are really in the next revolution, which I call co-intelligence revolution. And you can think of it as like next gen AI, not gen AI, generative AI, next gen AI, which will be generative AI, agentic AI, physical AI. And we're all going to now be creating new forms of AI systems as we proceed with this new AI infrastructure, where every company is going to be essentially building and using their own kind of AI factory-based TDIs, driving their value chains, their offerings, their management systems. And so this is a fundamental infrastructure that's being built out in the world today.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing those deep insights so far. Let's now shift to section 2, today's situation. To begin this part, I would love to hear your thoughts first. How do you view the current state of AI in society and business today? especially in the context of your co-intelligence frameworks?
So value now lives in these flows of co-intelligence. And so we have to think about value as flowing. I think if I go back to the last 100 years, and if you go to modern management, we have lived in a world where we think in terms of value being exchanged, right? In terms of goods and services. And then we talked a little bit about digital. But really, we have to now understand that the meaning is now flowing in the system. And if we can capture all of these flows and bring them as input tokens into the AI factories, which have output tokens, and these tokens are then connected back into the flow of enterprise value creation, that's where the next revolution is. So bullet point 2, TDI has dynamic composable, they're like units of intelligence, right? It has provenance, it's got feedback, it's got the reflexivity built in. And so I think going to the last point about Japan's inflection, Japan has been a leader in robotics. So if you think about physical AI, the difference is those robots were pre-programmed to do specific tasks, right? And today, essentially, you got to think about it in this very kind of multimodal way. And the physical AI is very important because ultimately we are bringing value back to the physical world. So I think we have to think about designing flows that, like I said, produce judgment at the point of experience, right? So the AI is sensing together with you, and it's then acting. That's the agentic part. And then it's embodying it in the context of your own flow of your experience, life experience on the one hand, but also through various robotic embodiments, right? So anything that is moving, it is becoming autonomous. So it's this combination of these autonomous systems, but actually working in harmony with the human beings as they interact and engage and steer these systems in ways in which it's meaningful to them. So all the way from people who are developing the system as developers, but also as users, and connecting the two in this symbiotic way.
AI's impact on business. In this part, we will explore how co-intelligence is reshaping business models, customer experiences, and organizational design. Benkan-san, we would love to hear your views as we enter this section.
It's dynamic. So it's evolving. The needs are evolving. The AI function is evolving. And I think that is the kind of transition to the slide, because that is the shift. We have always tried to satisfy human needs, right? Business, we say, go back to Philip Kotler, kind of heritage of marketing. You're trying to create, you satisfy human needs. But I think today with AI systems, the AI is having a dialogue with the human, is having a dialogue with the AI, is having a dialogue with the human, is having a dialogue with the AI. So it's a constant interaction. And like I gave the example of L'Oreal before, is a great example, where essentially what L'Oreal is now finding is we have real-time understanding of needs, and the system, some of it is automatically responding. It's not somebody's trying to do some analysis, do market research and find out. No. Forget all the old market research. Market research is automatically happening. You don't have to do market research. It's already happening because the person is expressing their needs and the system is collecting feedback. So one of the things I found is in L'Oreal, it does reverse prompting. So it's not that you are prompting the AI. AI is prompting you, right? When I said, Yamaguchi-san, how was the product you used yesterday, right? So it is actually talking back to you and you're talking back to it. So I think that is very powerful because before, as companies, we used to struggle to capture the insights. Insight is automatically captured, and that's why TDIs are very important. It is already in the system and automatically working. It's going into the supply chain and things are happening very dynamic. So we are going beyond the firm-centric optimization to ecosystem and TDI orchestration. So first is you have to enter into the AI factory. I think today now slowly I'm finding we are realizing that we are now going from the information age to the intelligence age. So the information age, it's still about digital transformation, but in the information age, it was about the cloud, right? And mobile and so on. So that was all about data and analyzing data and dashboards and all of that stuff. Now, and so we said, Mark Anderson famously says, software is eating the world. Today, AI is eating software, as Jensen Huang said, right? Which I think is a very powerful quote, because software is being written by AI. So AI is now writing the code, and that code is driving a lot of the stuff. So a lot of the attention is on, therefore, hey, we can automate. Absolutely, you can automate, but we're going beyond automation, as we saw, is really about having this dynamic loop, right, of interaction, where the AI system is learning from the humans. So it's not just about machine learning, it's about humans doing machine teaching. We have to teach the machine our values, our wisdom, our ethics, our morals, what we live, because the machine does not have, this is very important, it does not have a subjective human experience of the world, right? It doesn't have an understanding of space, time, the world we live in. Conversely, the AI system can also teach us, and our needs will evolve because we will also come to understand the human condition better, how we relate to other people, why the planet is very important. We talked about those sustainable well-being impacts. So we are also educated. So it's a very symbiotic relationship between AI and humans that I'm talking about, where humans are learning together with AI. AI is learning, we are teaching AI, and AI is also teaching us. Because the more I interact with ChatGPT, I've found in the last 3 to 6 months, especially in the last 3 months, I'm learning so much. And especially with now, like, I'm just interacting, like with this, the browser's right there. And every time I interact, I'm learning so much more. So I think the speed of the knowledge creation is being enhanced because the AI factories are able to work in real time, and it's always there. It's always on. I can share my experience with the system. So AI factory is very important. And as the TDIs work, going back to your point about the needs, right, driving all of this value, it is compounding, because the more the system learns, the more it's able to create value. We can move faster, we can compress the cycle time, and we can create value faster. That's the speed. We can do it at scale and at scope. So that's what makes it powerful, because the TDIs can be recomposed, reused. It can drive product development, supply chain optimization. It can drive workflows in terms of employees interacting on a daily basis, drive consumer interactions. So it's this orchestration that's very important. And now let me talk about risk, because I also know, Yamaguchi-san, I was reading about your risk framework from NTT, which is beautiful because it fits right in to this point about risk managed value. Because safety, trust, consent, assurance, these are design features. We have to purposefully design it, right? Just like human intent in the interaction, this is human intent in how we design the system. And so it cannot just be compliance. We have to actually design it into the system. It's built into the system. And so I think, given all of the way, for example, me as an outsider looking at Japan, has the ability to compete as a trusted orchestrator, right? And bring that empathy and the care that these systems can now provide for us individuals, so that we have these co-pilot experiences which are very reliable, very trustworthy, right? And this co-intelligent experiences. So I think that's the world that has promise that I see. It has lots of challenges, which we'll discuss in terms of how leaders need to kind of transform their enterprises to get there. But I'm seeing lots of positive expressions of this, as people now realize that this is something that is infused in every moment of engagement, every flow, and it's really a very dynamic view of value creation.
We summarize how digital technologies, from smartphones to AIs to robotics, combine to create powerful digital drivers that transform both customer and employee experiences. With the rise of generative AI and now agentic AI, we see these drivers evolving in meaningful ways. For customers, the experience becomes proactive and ambient. Systems anticipate and act without prompt, link services through APIs, and personalize in real time. For employees, AI enhances capabilities by automating tasks, reducing uncertainty, and generating product or services on demand. The key idea here is that agentic AI adds autonomy and goal direction. It helps business automate complex workflows, improve decision-making, and deliver deeper, more meaningful engagement with both users and workers. Let's now move into section 4. AI's impact on customer value. We will explore how AI is transforming the way companies engage, co-create, and evolve with their customers. Could you please share your perspective on how AI is changing the way companies deliver value to their customers?
Yes, sure. So Yamaguchi-san, I must say that I'm very impressed because every slide that you end a section with is a beautiful transition to the next section. In fact, I love your slide, AI will change customer experience and employee experience. I truly do, because I think that one slide captures the spirit of what we are talking about. But it will change customer experience and employee experience by making the process of creating experiences co-intelligent. That's basically what I'm saying, right? And so the experience is a co-creation process. So I love the slides. It's beautiful. It shows how generative AI and agent AI will drive it. I would also add physical AI in terms of robotics and these smart systems we talked about. Because the robotics AI brings it home in terms of our physical world, right? So that's very important because the AI can be embodied in the physical systems and interact with humans. So that takes me to this slide. So when we now think about AI's impact on customer value and saying, okay, so this is the way in which value is going to get created together, right? Humans and AI co-creating through the AI infrastructure, shared digitalized infrastructure platforms, right? With these flows of engagement, and which, like you said, impacts the customer experience, the employee experience, and the agentic AI helps the workflows in the ecosystem drive those experiences, but also create the impact at speed, scale, scope, and sustainably. So that's kind of what we've discussed so far. Yeah. What I want to now basically say is that when we think about the AI's impact on value, it is at the individual level, at the community level, it's across functions, it's also across sectors of society. So what we really need to do is to think about the AI's impact at all these levels, and also at the enterprise level and also at the country level. Because this is something I think for the first time where we can actually see how we can, if you go back to, we talked about the micro flows of interactions, there's a micro level and you can aggregate these TDIs to the meso level and to the more macro level. So it's a very scalable concept, the pi x lens, right? You can apply it at a level of each interaction. You can apply it to lots of interactions in terms of depending upon how you put a boundary around the flows. And we can also kind of zoom out and start looking at much more larger interactions. So that's what I meant by the pi x ladder for these journeys. So you can look at the journey of individuals as what I call creative experiences, right? So what we're saying is the consumer is a creative experiencer, the factory worker is a creative experiencer, the employee, the manager is also a creative experiencer. So all the human beings, they are creative experiences. Now, I just want to explain that word because what we're saying is we are not just users, we are experiencers first. Second, we are creative experiences because this technology allows us to be very creative and have creative expression, specify our intent, and create value together with the AI. So the AI essentially is recognizing the signals from our interaction. So that's the TDI is recognizing, and then it is able to, the system can respond and recommend like we've been discussing, but also help humans take actions and then evolve with the humans in the system. So we are really thinking about now, when we think about service, we used to talk about as a service, right? Like software as a service, partner as a service. Now we are saying it's like services as software as well, right? So the services are becoming very central. So the exchange of service, but we are actually enacting meaning through our interactions. So really it's it's the idea of customer value, but seen in a much more dynamic, interactive, personalized, but much more evolvable way, but something that is very practical. I think that's the key point I want to make, is that we have always talked about this as concepts. Oh, we need to create personalized value, but how? So I think for the first time in human history, we actually are part of these AI systems, but we have to design the system so it learns from our interactions reflexively and applies it in that way. So I think that's the shift that we have to make. And if we do that, then it will have a huge impact on not just customer value, but societal value.
This explores how leadership shifts with an ecosystem deepening on the value each player contributes. Initially, a grocery store might lead the value chain, owning the purchase experience. But as technology transforms cost structures and interaction points, a grocery delivery operator like Instacart may take the lead by providing more relevant real-time value such as home delivery. But there is an important point I would like to add. To truly succeed as an ecosystem leader, it's not just about contribution value. It's about balancing that value with cost and increasingly leveraging synergy effect with complementers. The player who provides core services, accesses essential data, and orchestrates synergies across the ecosystem at an efficient cost will ultimately take the lead. Let's now move into AI's impact on organizations. Could you share your perspective on how organizations can start designing for this kind of transformation? And what do you see as the biggest barrier or mindset shift required to move in this direction?
Yes. So again, perfect segue. So if I were to take the example you gave of grocery Instacart, if I go to OpenAI today, in fact, OpenAI, when they launched Atlas, they gave a grocery shopping experience. Yeah. And if you go to the demo, you'll see anybody can utilize the demo. So if you're 7-Eleven in Japan, you're Kroger here, Kroger has Instacart relationship. The point is that when you talk about planning meals and the entire value chain of activities in the journey of the customer, right? The point is today, I would go to OpenAI. And when you go to OpenAI and you're looking at, okay, I need to make a meal now. I want to plan a meal. You just go and ask AI, hey, ChatGPT, I want to plan a meal. Right? You say, okay, what do you want to make? So it's talking back to you. That's your starting point. And if you notice, I'm not starting with Instacart. I'm not starting with Kroger. I'm not starting with 7-Eleven. I'm not starting with any of these companies. What I'm starting with is OpenAI, ChatGPT. I go to ChatGPT and I'm asking it, help me plan a meal. Now, what is very interesting is that the moment I do that, it might say this, and then I say, hey, I shop at 7-Eleven, or here I shop at Kroger, and I use Instacart. It said, oh, sure. And it will show you what's in Kroger. And then, if you give it access to your Instacart account, it will actually connect you to Instacart. And then you can say, okay, I'm trying to do this. Oh, I'd love to do this, make this pasta, this dish. And it say, okay, so I want to build this. Or you might say, hey, can you show me some recipes? Oh, I like this recipe. What it will do is break the recipe down in terms of all the different things you need to buy from Kroger. And then it will say, do you want me to order it from Instacart for you? You'll go, sure. Now think about it. What do I do today or prior to this world? I would Google, I'll have some recipes, I'm scratching my head, thinking about this and how do I make this tomatoes? What should I do? How do I make it? How much should I get? Etc. And then I would go to the web, search, and then I will try to maybe take some notes or figure it out. And then I'm wondering, okay, does Kroger have this in inventory today? Does 7-Eleven carry this? And then, I'm going to assume, and if I have the service, I would go to Instacart, I would look at all the items and it'll say what's available. Then I would say, okay, go ahead and order the delivery. You can see so many steps I have to go through to go from, like you showed, the planning of the meal to actually making the meal. Today, all this is compressed. It's compressed, and not only just compressed, making it efficient. It's much more meaningful to me because it starts with me, the meal I want to make. I can talk to it, walk through it. So this is the world that we are already in. already happening because the APIs that you talk about are all connected through the OpenAI, right? So it makes everything much more seamless, much more integrated, much more natural. I can talk, I can interact with it, and I don't need to go and bounce between this screen, that screen, and Google and here. It's just one interface. The AI is the operating system, user interface. I'm there, I go, I browse, I learn, I create the recipe, I ensure that's what I want to make, I order it from Kroger, I go through Instacart, it comes to my door, I do the financial transaction, I give it feedback, everything in a single pane of glass. So, in that one window. So I think that's the shift. You talk about mindset shift is that is the experience ecosystem. I'm creating an experience, all the orchestration through agents, everything else is happening on the back end with generative AI in the front end. And this is the new kind of experience we can create a new value, which requires that ecosystem to create the experience with me. So in the book, we say, this is the world we are going to be in. And so every organization must become like a living system organization. So it should be continuously learning it should be designing its systems in this way. So what changes? You need to go from functional silos to these flow teams. So it's not the old journey mapping, it's mapping these flows with these TDIs in these dynamic journeys, but it starts with me as the customer trying to co-create that experience with the ecosystem. And so I believe that all managers will become AI system orchestrators, TDI flow orchestrators, because agents are going to do the stuff for you, but you have to design the system. You have to give it the intentionality. You have to ensure that it's of high quality. So that's our new job as managers, right? We have to orchestrate these, design this, make sure it's governed properly, it's trustworthy, like you said. And I think that's where the new value add is. Of course, we need a capability stack. We need to have all these models in the backend and the AI infrastructure. But that's really where I think the new organizational impact is going to be in terms of how we design these new organizations. So there is a mindset shift in how we think about value as not just delivering and exchanging goods and services, but co-creating experiences with these AI systems.
Here we summarize how organizational structure is influenced by generative AI, not just in how we work, but in how we define the organization itself. On the left, we see 6 key components that shape an organization: mission, scope, authority, hierarchy, incentives, and exceptions. On the right, we see how generative AI enhances all of these by increasing information processing speed, reducing asymmetry, and supporting faster, more aligned decision-making. This kind of AI-augmented structure could help coordinate more fluid, decentralized, and innovation-driven environment across partners. This slide explains how AI can augment human attention by exponentially increasing information processing capabilities. It contrasts the limited, linear growth of human cognition with the exponential gains possible when augmented by AI. Organization's current cognitive capacity, organization can only process information in a linear fashion. On the graph, this is represented by the blue curve, which shows that as the total amount of information grows, perceived information increases slowly and non-linearly. AI-augmented cognitive capacity, AI can exponentially increase the amount of information humans can perceive and make sense of, represented by the green line, which grows much faster than the human-only curve. By leveraging AI, organizations can dramatically expand their effective cognitive capacity beyond natural limits. Humans alone face cognitive bottlenecks, such as cost of processing, limit on attention, and preference for simplified input. By integrating AI, these bottlenecks can be broken given humans' exponential cognitive leverages. Societies and organizations that successfully harness AI for cognition will outpace those limited to linear human capacities. Generative AI supports the full information creation cycle, from idea generation and data collection to decision making and communication. In each stage, humans focus on reasoning, judgment, and ethics, while AI enhances or automates repetitive or data-heavy parts, like collecting data, generating reports, or supporting scenario planning. The key takeaway is that value creation is now co-driven by humans and AI, with both playing distinct but complementary roles. AI accelerates the flow, while humans remain central to purpose, trust, and meaning. And as you mentioned, AI and humans collaborate interactively, not one way, two-way is very important. I understand. So this slide shows how generative AI transforms the roles and responsibility across different layers of an organization. For executives, AI supports strategy setting with scenario generation, and automated environmental analysis. Managers shift toward interpreting AI visualized data and aligning teams through more precise communication. And staff members increasingly collaborate with AI, automating tasks, sharing knowledge, and generating new ideas. In short, AI is not just streamlining operations, it's redistributing decision-making and creative responsibilities across the organization, while dramatically improving speed, clarity, and value creation at every level. Let's move into our final section, New Society's Infrastructure. I find the idea of moving beyond digital transformation to the co-intelligent transformation of life experiences particularly meaningful, especially in the Japanese context. May I ask, what do you see important steps for governments or business to building this kind of next society?
So absolutely. So I think you're not just talking about digital society or knowledge society, right? I think you talk about wisdom. I think the key part here is to understand that we have to learn to ultimately we are trying to co-create meaningful experiences, right? And this meaning is it's in motion. So from a societal perspective, there are lots of challenges because it is a very participatory process, right? If you think about it, at the bottom of your previous slide on generative AI, you talk about learning with AI, and you're generating idea with AI. The key word is with. So we are just, I think, learning to how to engage with AI. So I think there's a lot of skilling that's necessary for helping people understand that the more you engage with AI, the more AI can help you. But it has to be trustworthy. And I think right now it's early days because we haven't fully figured out how to integrate these non-deterministic generative AI systems. It requires a lot of work to bring it into the domain inside of an enterprise, like you were articulating, right? The customer employee experience agenting. So there's a lot of work in actually designing the systems and governing the systems, ensuring they have guardrails in terms of managing all of the risk, but also designing it in a way in which people feel that value is coming towards them. But it's a chicken and egg thing because it requires people to actually work with the system, knowing fully well the system makes mistakes. It's just like as humans, we make mistakes. But somehow when the system makes a mistake, we humans say, oh, that's not acceptable. It's like, humans on the road, if you look at accidents, humans contribute to accidents. But if one autonomous car creates, let's say, there's an accident and something happens, we take it out of proportion. So what I'm saying is that people need to start understanding that we have to actually help the AI systems become better, right? By working together with it. So I think that's a big societal challenge because you have a lot of people out there talking about doom and gloom and AI taking over, and there are some risks of that. But that's all up to us, right? In terms of how we design these systems and make it work for humanity. So I think that messaging is very important in terms of this ecosystem harmonization and saying we can actually create better regenerative systems, better inclusion and well-being. So while we had the goals before, I think together with AI, there's an opportunity to actually achieve it with trustworthy orchestration of these flows. But I want to also be very realistic and